Hey pups, RP here, and welcome or welcome back to my channel, and welcome back to another fanfiction reading. And we are at the final chapter of the Tree of Danger for our recruitment adventure. And the final chapter is Ultimate Test, the Imperviable Chapel. And if you guys don't know who Chapel is, he's that steel armor dragon person creature thing from the Tournament of Power arc around like one of the first episodes of the Tournament of Power arc when the Tournament of Power began, and Goku and Vegeta were fighting all the Ninth Universe warriors. They ganged up on them. If you remember that episode, kudos to you, I guess. But anyway, this is the final chapter of the 4-hour recruitment adventure, and this is where they recruit Chapel, and that's pretty much it. With all that being said and done, let's get into this story. Chapel the Imperviable, asked Bergamo, as the clouds floated past them. I can't say that I have. Tell me more. Guy's part of the Iron Dragon clan, said Hop. They live in the Allspice Mountains, and brother, you've got to be one tough son of a gun in order to live there. Bergamo's eyes widened with wonder. Tell me more. Well, see, they do all their farming at the base of the mountain, but their settlements are on the peaks, so every harvest, they've got to carry all their crops to the top. Now, if you are wondering why they don't just build their settlements at the base, it's because they got their superstitions that the resting place has to be as close to the moon as possible. Hop went on and on about the Iron Dragons, their history, the effect that all their adversaries has had on their bodies, and finally, the proudest warrior, Chapel, all while leading the group through the clouds, presumably to the dragon's home. Lavender spent the entire trip panting and making goo-goo eyes at her, while Sorrel spent it cowering behind Hyssop. Hop ignored both of them. Now, here's the thing about Chapel, Hop said. He's a... Oh! Here we are. Hop stopped in her tracks and pointed downwards. The team's attention was drawn towards a mountain range, a mile or so below them, with faint outlines of cottages resting atop one of the peaks. She started to descend towards the peak, while motioning for the rest to follow her, which they did. I must say, the breadth of your knowledge is impressive, said Bergamo. I didn't expect you to be so quite well-read. The prison's got a fully stocked library, explained Hop. Spent a lot of time in there reading because, you know, what else am I gonna do? As the team floated downwards, the outline started to become clearer. Several tall, humanoid figures started to come into view around the cottages. As they drew closer still, they began to notice the villagers' dragonic features, like ebony horns, elongated snouts, whipped-like tails, and torsos covered with silvery scales. Just before they touched down, one of the inhabitants, a relatively short, hunchback dragon dressed in a dirty gray toga, gave them a wave hello. Good day, travelers, he said in a raspy voice, beaming brightly. Taking a moment to look around, the team noticed that the other villagers who approached them were also sporting warm smiles. Bergamo was a bit surprised at the warm welcome, but he wasn't about to complain. And a good day to you too, said Bergamo, giving a small bow. My name is Bergamo. These are my brothers, Lavender and Basil, and my friends, Sorrel, Oregano, Hyssop, Comfrey, Roselle, and Hop. Hello, hello, said the toga-clad dragon, shaking each of their hands as their names were called out. Welcome to the Iron Dragon Village. To what do we owe this pleasure? Bergamo crouched down a little to meet the dragon at his eye level. As he did, the rest of the group gathered around both of them, listening intently to their conversation. We're recruiting warriors for Multiverse Fighting Tournament, said Bergamo. We've heard talk about a member of your clan named Chapel, was it? He momentarily glanced at Hop, who gave him a nod. Ah, Chapel the Imperviable, exclaimed the dragon, the hardiest fellow in all of Parika. At least, we'd like to think so. Perfect, said Bergamo. Take us to him. The old dragon's smile shrank, and Bergamo's did soon afterwards. I'm afraid that might be a bit difficult, said the old dragon. And why is that? Asked Bergamo, narrowing his eyes. He's asleep. The elder's explanation earned him some incredulous looks from around the circle. Then we'll just wake him up, cried Lavender. The elder sighed and shook his head. Not an easy task, I'm afraid. Chapel isn't just the mightiest warrior in our village. He's also the heaviest sleeper. Bergamo took a step back, massaging his temples in frustration. There's always a catch. There's always a catch. You can try to wake him up if you wish, said the elder, pointing towards the far side of the village. Mountain stood a tall, lank, platinum-colored dragon, with long black horns jutting out of his head, wearing nothing but a purple-sleeved tunic that left his midriff completely bare. The dragon had bowed his head, arms folded across his chest, and his eyes shut. He sleeps standing up? Asked Basil, raising a brow. We all do, said the elder dragon. Our ancestors began the practice long ago, believing that it made them stronger. Does it? Asked Basil. Heck if I know. But once you get into a habit, it's hard to kick it. With that, the elder shuffled off to the side and extended his hand towards Chapel's sleeping form. As I said, you're welcome to try. Between the 9 of you, I'm sure at least one of you could— Chapel, wake up! Chapel, wakey wakey eggs and bakey! While the rest of the group was occupied, Oregano had apparently taken it upon himself to make the first move. The team looked over to see him clinging to Chapel's body like a spider monkey and bellowing into his ear. Soon afterwards, Sorrel decided to join in on the fun, hopping around Chapel's stationary form and clapping her hands. Wake up, Chapel! Rise and shine! Up and at him, sleepy dragon! Bergamo groaned, bemoaning the fact that there wasn't a wall nearby for him to beat his head against. Oregano and Sorrel, predictably, were met with complete failure. A few other members joined in, and they fared no better. Comfrey and Roselle tried to bribe Chapel, and were completely ignored. Hup tried to wake him up by grabbing his crotch, only to find that there was nothing to grab. All the while, Bergamo, Basil, and Hyssop watched the rest of the gang in disappointed silence. Should we tell them to stop trying? Asked Hyssop. As much as I like to, I'm struggling to come up with a better idea, Bergamo said with a sigh. I'm sure something will come to us, said Basil. The 3 of them stood together in thought, watching the chaos play out before them. As the gears in their head turned and turned, Basil started going through all the unique talents that the individual team members sported, wondering if any of them could be used to solve the problem. Sorrel? No, you can't leech energy from someone who's already asleep. Oregano? No. What would those webs even do? Hyssop? No, I don't think freezing him would help either. Lavender? Even if poison did wake him up, we don't want to poison an ally right before the tournament. Bergamo? Light bulb. Basil excitedly skipped over to Bergamo and Hyssop, whispering his plan in both of their ears. Hyssop reacted with an appreciated head nod, while Bergamo's eyes widened with intrigue. You know what? He asked, cracking a smile at his youngest brother. It just might be crazy enough to work. Let's give it a try. Basil pumped up his fist in triumph, grabbing Bergamo by the shoulders and kneed him in the abdomen as hard as he could. Bergamo choked out a grunt of pain and fell to his knees, causing the rest of the group to stop what they were doing and jerk their heads around towards the source of the cry. Basil, you dumb galoot! What the heck did you do that for? Cried Roselle. I oughta— But Roselle shut his mouth as soon as he saw what Bergamo did next. The knee-shaped imprint on Bergamo's stomach started to glow a deep crimson, which soon spread to the rest of his body. With his jowls now curled into a smirk, Bergamo brushed himself off and rose to his feet. A rumbling sound emanated through the village as Bergamo's body swelled in size, gaining a half-foot in both height and width. By the time the rumbling subsided, he was at Hyssop's eye level. Nice shot, he said, smiling down at Basil. Your turn, Hyssop. Hyssop shrugged, pulled back his fist, and hammered Bergamo in the chest. The glow returned, as did the tremors, and Bergamo added another foot to his height. Beautiful, roared Bergamo, punctuating his cry with a howl of ecstasy. The sized Bergamo turned to face the rest of the group, leering down at them and licking his chops. Well, what are you waiting for? Come over here and give me your best shot. The other team members complied, rushing over to their leader and taking turns pulverizing his ever-growing body. With every glow, he towered higher and higher over them, and the tremors grew stronger and stronger. By the time Hop had taken the final turn, Bergamo stood at a gargantuan height of 50 feet. I believe that will be enough, he boomed, motioning for the group to stop. He then walked over towards Chapel, causing the ground to shake with each step, as the villagers looked on in complete and utter bewilderment. Without a word, Bergamo bent down, placed himself on his knees, coiled his massive paw around Chapel's body, and lifted him. As expected, the draconic warrior was still fast asleep, even as Bergamo's thundering footsteps failed to stir him. I hope this works. Bergamo took a deep breath to ready himself for the task, causing his titanic chest to swell and contract. He then took Chapel, raised him into the air, and started wagging his head against the ground. Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! He bellowed. Everyone in the vicinity cringed, both from the noise of Bergamo's yelling and that of Chapel's head clanging against the ground. After about 20 to 30 whacks, he was interrupted by a deep, irate-sounding baritone voice. I'm up, put me down! Bergamo stopped himself cold, letting out a sheepish chuckle. Oh, wonderful, was all he could manage to say as he set Chapel back on the ground. I trust there's a reason why you so rudely interrupted my sleep, said Chapel, crossing his arms. Yes, there is, said Bergamo, as he began to shrink back to normal size. And I sincerely apologize, but I'm leading an intergalactic team of warriors set to represent Universe 9 in a multiverse tournament. We've been looking for our 10th member, and we would be honored to have you fill that slot. Would you be so kind? Chapel scratched his sizable chin, mulling over Bergamo's request. It clearly means a lot to you, and there wasn't anything else I planned to do today. Well, except for sleeping, but I think we can forget about that. He walked forward, grabbed the now normal-sized Bergamo by the paw, and gave it a shake. You've got yourself a teammate. Bergamo grinned, patting the new recruit on the shoulder. I promise we'll make it up to you when all of this is over, he said. I'm not sure how, but greetings, trio. Bergamo was cut off by the sound of an all-too-familiar voice from a few yards away. He and the group whipped around and saw, to their shock, the angel Mojito standing in the middle of the village, with Sidra by his side. As it happened, Bergamo had created such a spectacle and caused such a din that he and the rest of the team failed to notice the arrival of the two deities. Mojito, stammered Bergamo, as he and the rest of the group fell to their knees and bowed. What a pleasant sir. It appears that your 4 hours are up, said Mojito, staring obsequently at his timepiece. But I'm impressed. It seems that you have assembled quite the entourage in that time. He then pointed out each warrior in rapid success, counting them off to himself. 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 warriors. Mojito and Sidra smiled warmly at the 10 of them, and motioned for them to rise. I'm very proud of you 3, said Sidra. I wasn't so sure that you could pull this mission off, but I couldn't be happier that you proved me wrong. Mojito rammed his staff into the ground, and a circle of light expanded outward from the point of impact. Come, he said. We can't afford to wait a second longer. You know how much the Omni King hates to be kept waiting. All of the warriors scurried into the circle, with the exception of Roselle, who just stood there in a vacant stare. He was snapped out of his daze when Comfrey whistled for him to come hither. Wait, I'm coming too? Cried Roselle. I thought it was just... Lavender dashed over, clamped a paw over Roselle's mouth, and dragged him into the circle. Don't mind him, he said to Mojito, glaring at the creature. Mojito responded with a simple shrug and a smirk, and so the 10 of them rocketing into space. And so, after a chaotic, dense 4 hours, the trio of danger assembled a proud team of diverse, competent, passionate warriors. The wily Sorrel, the wise Oregano, the hulking Hysep, the shrewd Comfrey, the helpful Roselle, the sadistic Hop, and the imperturbable Chapel. With their powers combined, they would undoubtedly play a major role in the Tournament of Power and last a great deal of time. Or rather, they would have, if they hadn't decided in their infantile wisdom to home in on the strongest team in the arena at the very beginning of the tournament. This, predictably, did not end well for them, and their entire universe was erased from existence in the few first minutes. Furthermore, the trio of danger had neglected to tell any of their recruits that the universe was at stake. The hapless warriors barely had time to cry, "Wait, what?" before they were wiped from the plane of existence. Fortunately, the last surviving fighter of the tournament, Android 17 of Universe 7, was granted one wish from Super Shenron as a prize, and he was generous enough to use it to bring every other universe back into reality. As relieved as they were, the trio of danger, Sidra, and Mojito would have an awful lot of explaining to do to the rest of the team once they returned to Planet Parika, but that's another story for another time. The end. Alright, and there you have it. That was the last and final chapter of the 4-hour recruitment adventure, and it was really enjoyable. I loved it. I really love this fanfiction. There were some spelling and grammatical errors here and there that I can't really point out right now, But all in all, I really like this fanfiction. Would read again. I do read again all the time whenever I have the chance to, whenever I have the free time to. And the author of this fanfiction, MrTyeDye, they did the Tree of Danger justice by writing their own story of how the Tree of Danger got their warriors, aside from, the actual Tree of Danger, lavender, basil, and bergamot, And as a furry and anime fan, when I got really big into Dragon Ball Super, it was mostly for the character Lord Beerus. Then I kept watching the anime, and then the Tree of Danger appeared, and I fell in love with these guys immediately. Mainly because they are wolves, they're doggies, they're doggos, and I love doggos. And you get the picture. I'm a furry, I'm an anime fan. Sue me, I am who I am based. So, screw you, cringe compilation makers. But in all seriousness, though, this was a really good fanfiction. MrTyeDye did the Tree of Danger justice by making this fanfiction about how they got the warriors, Sorrel, Hop, Hyssop, Oregano, Roselle, Comfrey, and Chapel, and introduced each of these characters in their own way, how they were introduced, and all that fun stuff. And I love this story. 10 out of 10, would read again, which I do all the time, as I said earlier. But with all that being said, you will see new fanfiction stories from me, mostly in the reading form of audio, maybe visuals if I'm able to do a speed paint or something like that. I don't know. Maybe. But if y'all like these fanfiction readings, and if you have any suggestions, be sure to leave in the comments below. And if you want to read the fanfiction for yourself, I am going to leave a link to the fanfiction in the description, like I have done this past whole time I've been doing the fanfiction readings of each of these chapters. And I'm also leaving a link to MrTyeDye's fanfiction.net profile, because they may have some other stories that you guys might be interested in if you aren't into the Dragon Ball Super or the Dragon Ball fanfiction writings. I'm sure they have more fanfictions in their profile. I mostly looked at the Trio of Danger fanfiction because I really wanted to read it. I really wanted to do an audio reading of it. And if MrTyeDye is watching this video right now, you did a good job on this story, man. I loved it. I loved everything about it. How you introduced all the characters, how you gave them more character, how you introduced their powers, and how you gave them certain types of powers. I'm not sure if the powers are explained and demonstrated in the manga. I definitely watched more of the anime, and that's pretty much it. But in any case, links to everything will be in the description. If you have a suggestion for fanfiction that you want me to read, be it from a fandom like Hello Boss, Hazbin Hotel, My Little Pony, Pokemon, or any genre at all, I am mostly sticking with like the PG-13 type of thing, because I do not do erotic fanfiction. So all you MLP Clop fanfiction enthusiasts out there, yeah, you're not gonna see any of that from me. And I do not want YouTube being angry with me, and I do not want the YouTube gods punishing me for Clop fic readings. Okay? Okay, thank you very much. The internet has corrupted me, I swear. But anyway, I will see you all in the next one. And with all that being said, cue the outro. RP is out. Peace.